We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience, moment to moment.
Hello and welcome everyone to this week's Collective Imagination Show with myself, Lisa Harrison, and Barbara Carnes from New York. How you doing, Barbara?
Hello. Good.
You good? And we've got a nice full chat room as well. So thank you everyone for joining us and playing in the chat room. Yesterday's show brought up the subject of Magick thanks to a new bill passed in Congress. And we thought we might explore the whole subject of Magick a little bit more today, seeing as the workings of the collective imagination is magical. So did you want to kick this off, Barbara? What brought that up?
Sure. Well, it's the idea of magic, and listening to yesterday's show, I live a very magical life, and I didn't really want to chime in on the conversation because it had its own rhythm, and the rhythm was magic, almost as if it were like, you know, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, it's going to come get you, and oh my God, you know. And there is that element, but you know, there's just this beautiful side of living a in-tuned, magical life. And I'm just really lucky that this segment of it has been like this for me for a number of years now. And it's, to me, I use the word magical all the time. I'm living a very magical life. And so that's kind of what I wanted to look at, that side of the coin, maybe on this show, since yesterday's was more on the darker, the black magic side, or just exploring all the possibilities as to why that House bill was passed up. Which actually, let me start by sharing my screen. I have a couple of things I wanted to show folks. The first is this. Most of you have already seen this before. Let me move it up. This is the sigil, the logo for the Collective Imagination, and we designed this to test sigils. We were looking at sigil magic at the time. It looked really interesting. So we were starting the Collective Imagination, and we figured, why not? So we took, for those who don't know how a sigil is designed, you take the phrase, whatever the phrase is. In this case, it was the Collective Imagination, where magic happens, where magic was spelled M-A-G-I-C-K. And now that we've lived with this since 2012, approximately July of 2012, let me say that I would have refined that a little bit, because just saying where magic happens sure did open up some doors for us to have some experiences that maybe we could have been a little bit more specific on. And looking back at that video, can you remember the name of that guy who did that video, that wild, crazy guy who talked about sigil magic?
Oh, the English guy with the...
Yeah.
No, I can't.
I think he's an artist or musician or something. But look up, go to YouTube and type in sigil magic, and I'm sure you'll find it. That's kind of what got me interested in giving it a shot. But he was very specific. He said, be careful what you asked for, because you're going to get it. And boy, did we ever. But this is the design. And if you look at it, well, to create a sigil again, you take the phrase, you remove all of the vowels, A, E, I, O, and U. You remove all of the duplicate consonants. So anytime there's like 2 or 3 T's or whatever, you just use one. And then you end up with a small collection of letters. You then take those letters and you just start drawing them out on a piece of paper until they, I probably made 6, 8 different possibilities before I came up with this. And there was just something about this that I liked. So then I took it into Photoshop, and instead of just making them little sticks, I, filled them out and stuff. And we have different versions. This one has stripes and it's green. We've got other ones that are just plain colors, blue, yellow, red. We've got everything. So the color wasn't really key here. So the idea is that once you create this sigil and you're effectively infusing it with the message, which is the magic, then anyone who comes in contact with that sigil then is I don't want to say affronted, is brought into the realm of whatever that magic is. For example, the McDonald's M is supposed to be a sigil. The Coke symbol is supposed to be a sigil. And on the tour that I'm doing, the translation tour, the owl is actually a sigil. And I think it's Windows of Wonder or something like that. Translation tours, Windows of Wonder, something fun like that. See, they like it. Thank you, I appreciate it. But this particular sigil, which contains the magic of where magic happens, the phrase where magic happens, is specific. You can actually see the letters. If you actually took the phrase, the collective imagination, where magic happens, then removed the vowels and the duplicate consonants, and then looked at what was left, you can actually go through this and you can see them. But it doesn't have to be like that. The owl, what I did was I did a series of drawings, and one of them looked so much like an owl, I thought, you know what? That looks like an owl to me, so I'm going to find, create a design based on some photo that I can find that I kind of trace and play with stuff and then change it a little bit. I'm not really much of an original designer, except maybe for this. But I'm really great at using something else as my canvas and then working with that, which is what I did. So even though the owl that you see, probably the same as the M in the McDonald's or the Coke symbol, those kinds of things, it is not an exact representation, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you create the general design, and then the intent is to infuse it with the magic. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility. So that's this whole show, The Collective Imagination, is a place where magic happens. And that's something I'm actually, I'll say, proud of. Now, after our discussion yesterday, the One People show with Danny and Lisa, I looked a little bit more closely into that house order. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. It's called, well, let's just look at it here. I think this might be the one.
It's H-Res.
Yeah, house resolution. Now, what I learned, and let me bring up this. Let me share the screen. It actually isn't a bill yet. It hasn't gone through the full process. It's just been submitted. And that's what I was really curious about. So I'm actually following this. This is, you can actually follow these things here, which I already have. But this tells you a little bit more about it, and it gives you the overview, and it tells you who all is sponsoring it, which I also thought was really interesting because you could go and see the whole history of who are these people and what's their story and that kind of thing. So this gives you the action so far, and there is a site that I'll show you in a minute that you can follow it so that as it goes through the process, if it gets accepted or rejected, etc., it will show. Now, for those of you who don't know how bills work, it's either the House introduces it and it gets approved, and then the Senate it goes to the Senate for approval, or it's reversed. The Senate sends something up and it gets approved by the Senate, and then it goes to the House for approval. So right now, it was referred to the House Committee of Oversight and Government Reform on March the 14th, and it was introduced in the House on March 14th. So it's introduced, which means it's formally, he loves it. He's like all about magic himself, which means that someone read it, someone talked about it, they had a discussion, I'm sure that eventually it will be on C-SPAN and you can watch it yourself. I actually found that every bill gets recorded, and they go back more than 10 years. I saw them go back into the late 90s, and I'm sure they may even go back further. So eventually you can watch the whole process, and I'll be interested to see that when it comes out, to see who said what and how they actually brought this thing forward. So that's where it stands. It hasn't actually even been approved by the House. But if it is, then it will be sent over to the Senate for its approval. And that's the way that it works. So that's the status of it right now, which I thought was interesting. And I think I'm not sharing my whole screen. You can't see that I'm changing things, I don't think. Let me share. and not just a little window. My whole desktop. Okay, so here's the alerts thing. So for anyone who wants to follow this, and I'm very interested in following it, the URL is www.congress.gov/bill/114th for the 114th -congress/house/resolution/642/text. And you can see, where is it? Get alerts. And I've already signed up for this. So you just go to that page and you click get alerts, and it asks you to sign up. And of course I used one of my aliases because the last thing I want is to be in their database when I've worked so hard to stay out of the system. I'm like completely off the grid, you know. They don't really know much about me and what I'm really doing in the world. So you can get the alerts sent to any email address as long as you set up a little quick account. And again, it tells you, you know, in this case, who sponsored it, what committee it's in, and the last action. It also gives you the text, actions, titles, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really interesting place to follow the process of this or any bill. And then, of course, it gives it to you in its full, interesting form. And I think y'all should read it. It's kind of interesting. I did a quick review of news to see if I could find out where this whole thing originated. And there's some congressman, probably the guy this guy here, but don't quote me. He's from Texas. Yeah, it must be him. And he said that he initiated this process because as a child, he used to love magicians, including David Copperfield. So for him, in what I'll say is, this is me paraphrasing, in his lowly little town in Texas, you know, without much going for him, it was David Copperfield and magic that made him feel like anything was possible. And today he's, you know, a representative in the House of Representatives. So he wanted to recognize that for the purpose of opening the concept of magic up for exploration and funding. Right now it's considered a hobby, but with this kind of recognition, it could be considered an art. It could be considered something worth, you know, exploring further, getting educational funds, getting grants for, things like that. And that was his intent. Now, I cannot say 100% that it was this guy who sponsored it, but it seemed like to me what I was watching was the guy who sponsored it talking. So that's his story. Now, my take on it is a little bit different. I guess I can stop sharing for a while so you don't have to keep looking at that. My take on it's a little bit different. However it gets there, I had to ponder this for a while because at first I thought, ooh, maybe that means they're putting in magic so that they can actually, you know, use magic kind of openly in the cabal sense, you know, to do their due. But what about on our side? Introducing magic and recognizing it gives it a level of credibility that people like us who are utilizing it for co-creative efforts, who want to live a magical life, who just want to tip the scales so that we can, you know, pass over this matrix, it might be exactly what we need. So I don't give a flying leap who put it up there or why they did, or if there's really this alternative dark motive, because it doesn't matter, because that doesn't mean I'm going to use it for that. I'm going to use it for the exact opposite, and so can anybody else.
That's why I like doing both of these shows, because on the one hand, I get to explore that whole, my cynic, you know, gets to come out. And then on this show, I get to explore the more positive and sort of hopeful side and the self-empowering side. And so I get balance that way. I think I've said this a few times over the last few months, is that, you know, just as we're seeing more and more crap happening, we're also seeing more and more positive stuff happening. And I think they are happening in equal amounts. And there is a flip side to so much of what we're seeing. And even when, let's say just for an hypothetical that this did originate with some sort of ill intent, it doesn't seem to work out that way for them. And we get to be able to flip it in a way that works for us. We're seeing that a lot as well over the last couple of years. Even the TPP can be viewed as such. So I know where you're going with this, and I do like it because it legitimizes in a way the whole conversation.
And let's take it a step further. Let's say that it does get passed. The moment it gets passed, then, well, you don't live here. I could apply for a grant for exploration of some kind of like manifestation and put it under the label of Magic. Just write it in a way that meets whatever their criteria is, but that would teach other people.
Okay, is it me that's freezing?
You know, it doesn't really matter what it is.
Barbara, I don't know if it's you or me, but
now
I'm
let's
not catching.
Go down the road 2 years, 5 years, and
Okay,
I would
Barbara, it's you. You're robo doll. You have been for the
Okay,
last.
let me close some windows. Okay, 1 second. Okay, is that better?
Not yet.
Is that better?
Not yet.
Can you hear me? Okay, my windows. Can the people in chat hear me okay? Okay, so even Linda says she can't hear me.
It's getting better.
Okay, let me also turn off my fan too. That might help.
Okay.
Okay, is that any better?
Yes.
Okay, well, sometimes the fan F's things up. But what I was saying is, because everything is growing so exponentially, I'm not going to say look forward 10 years or 20 years. I'm going to say look forward 3 years, maybe 5. I think that if this passes, the kind of funds that could be offered for a grant or the kind of legitimacy that this could provide could go far beyond just the basic term of magic as it's envisioned by its creators of this bill. Because one thing leads to another, or you've got a tiny little phone that does everything. It's the same thing. Right now they're seeing magic as illusionist work, kind of mislabeling it, and the next thing you know, people are going to start doing things, magic, that are going to prove, holographic reality and other kinds of things that are going to really kick the cap right off the top. And that kind of, to me, is exciting. So I hope this bill gets passed, and even if it doesn't, if it gets no further than it is right now, I still think that has provided a level of credibility that is just exists now.
When I first heard about this, I thought of a few things. You've got people like Chris Angel, Dynamo, guys like that who I don't think they're illusionists. I think they're legitimately practicing some kind of metaphysical ability, right?
I agree. Uh-huh.
Now, Chris Angel is American, is he not?
I think so.
Of the two between him and Copperfield, I thought he would have been the more appropriate because Copperfield is purely an illusionist, whereas this guy is potentially exhibiting real magic. But now that you've explained the background of the guy who presented it and his particular affiliation with Copperfield, then it makes sense. But so it got me wondering about whether or not it was in part, intentionally or not, creating a space for those guys to actually come out and not have to hide behind the label of illusionist or magician in that sense. Is it preempting our iTech from switching on? Those things went through my head yesterday too, as well as all the stuff that we talked about yesterday, the potential misuse of it. But wouldn't that be cool if our eye check starts to switch on in such a way that we can go. It's written over there.
I know, I agree.
I like that idea.
His eyes just
The
went,
U.S. law.
according to US law, I can manifest this tomato.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Well, did you see that post in the UU room that I forget who shared it, but she posted something that was a really long description about Magick.
Oh, I did, and I started to read it, and I thought, oh, I'm going to save that for the show. So thanks for the reminder. I thought I'd done.
Yes, it's really good. I also have the link here too. What I liked was it talks about kind of the history, for lack of a better word, of Magick, spelled with a CK, and that historically, I mean, going way back into the Egyptians and everything, there were three things that they focused on. One was alchemy. One was frickety frick. Hang on, I gotta look at something here because I highlighted it and did a screenshot. Hang on a second.
Okay, I've got it.
That's my. Oh, I did it on my other computer. Of course, I did it on my other computer. Alchemy, something, and magic were the three focal areas for the group at that time. We can take a moment here and find that.
I've got the article up. Do you want me to read it and screen share?
Yeah, go ahead and screen share it. And while you're doing that, I'll pull it down because it isn't at the top. It's about a third of the way down, I believe. And
yeah, this image was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So if you could just for a second, if you can just pull it down a little bit and keep pulling it. There, stop there. That long paragraph, it starts with the emerald tablet. At the end it says, the tablet references the three parts of the wisdom of the whole universe. These are basically the blanks of spiritual practice, which are alchemy, astrology, and magic. And I thought that was really interesting.
By means of which spiritual attainment is accomplished.
Exactly. And the point is to try and connect the part of us that is grounded here with our higher self. And those are just...
Yeah, that paragraph reads, the main purpose of Magick is to establish the relation of the subconscious self with the holy guardian angel or higher self in such a way that the adept is aware that this angel is the unity by which expresses the sum of the elements of that self, that is, that her normal consciousness contains alien enemies introduced by the accidents of environment, and that the knowledge and conversation of her own holy guardian angel destroys all doubts and delusions, confers all blessings, teaches all truth, and contains all delights.
And honestly, that's the way that I see magic, and that's the way it works in my life. It's just a beautiful experience every day when I wake up, and it's filled with synchronicities, and it's filled with connections, and I'm constantly reminded that there's more than just this, and it's grown into a point where I'm beginning to recognize when things are given to me simply for me to share with somebody else, that they're not experiences just for me. They're brought to me, say, through synchronicity. But when I mention them to someone over here, it was really meant for them. And that's really getting cool.
Yeah.
So it's magical.
The whole conversation we've been having around solace ties into this as well, doesn't it?
It sure does. And someone mentioned that they thought it was interesting that this, one of the comments was that they thought this looked similar to DNA. I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure somebody can see it. There's kind of a spiral in the one on the right, but it's very fascinating.
Yeah, well, you've got all kinds of things. You've got a Taurus down here.
Yeah.
You've got a double Taurus Taurus, I should say. Let's go here.
I'm curious what folks in the chat room think too.
Well,
You
they're
know, I
seeing
would love for
they're seeing.
anyone feel moved enough to come on and share their thoughts about the whole magic experience.
And your experiences of magic in your life.
Mm.
I mean, I played around with magic in many forms, you know, because I think it's a word that we define for ourselves very personally, you know. So whether it's playing around with Wicca and you're, you know, writing spells and lighting candles or burning incense, or reading tarot, casting runes, reading palms. I mean, these are all a form of magic. Or whether it's going deep into meditation and kind of having some transformative internal experience, that's magic. Whether it's technology that we don't understand that appears to be magic.
Energetic works that we do.
Yes, the stuff that we do in our dream time, the stuff that we do in, I guess, what's loosely called the astral. What we do with our imagination, you know, even while we're standing there doing the dishes.
Yeah, did you listen to that thing that Shirley MacLaine?
Robo again.
That little clip from her book that I posted on the Collective Imagination page?
Yeah, I did listen to that.
I said, did you listen to so even Shirley MacLaine talks about how important the imagination is and how it is kind of a gateway and has been for her whole life into all these experiences. Because she said, if I can imagine it, then what stops it from being reality? Nothing.
Exactly. Morris, you've got your mic unmuted. Did you want to come out and share? So have you, Violet? No? Okay, then I'll mute you guys. Yeah, so how does magic play out in your lives? How do you play with it? What do you recognize as magic? That's what I want to know. How do you define it for yourself? Do you see the coincidences as magical? Everything. Yeah, thanks, Linda. That's good.
Yeah, someone in chat just said, yeah, everything.
Come on, Jade.
I don't mind telling you about a little something, Lisa, since nobody else.
Yes, please, Sheila. Go ahead.
I've found a lot of synchronicity regarding the energetics and astrology lately myself, specifically using the Oracle report and the energetics that the Sabian symbols talk about how what the planets are disseminating at different times. As a matter of fact, when I first found out about that bill being introduced on Monday, it was rather odd that several of the planets started disseminating Sabian symbols that had to do with magic the day before.
Yeah, you actually pointed that out. That was really impressive. So the day before, you see the Oracle report and some other places talking about things in terms of magical percent, etc. And then the next day, this bill gets introduced.
Yes, and the same thing actually happened last night. You see now, Laura Walker, who does the Oracle report on a daily basis, is based on the East Coast of the United States. However, she has a lot of readers who are in Australia, and they had been saying to her that by the time she puts out the Oracle report in the mornings, it's kind of late in the afternoon for them. So she began just this week, 2 days ago actually, to put the report out as early as possible so that those in Australia, her readers in Australia, could use her reports to help them gauge what the energetics are going to be like that day. So when I left the campfire chat last night, I checked her site before I went to bed. And I could tell you that the energetics that she reported for today had a lot to do with the idea of issues in the world. Tantrums, in other words, by the cabal, so to speak. And what do I wake up to find this morning? Terror attacks in Brussels in 2 different places. And I thought, okay, there's another instance right there for that I can point to on the world stage. There's been lots of things in my individual life and the lives of those around me. But yes, I realize that they're false flags, but I'm convinced that they know that these planets disseminate certain energies and they try to use them against us. And there are those of us who know that these things are, happening and can feel those energetics. And I feel like we've talked about before, it's like disempowering that. I just thought it was pretty interesting and I wanted to share that.
Yeah, I do too, Sheila, and I appreciate that.
You know what I liked about yesterday's conversation is that really felt like that so much in practice yesterday. We started off with the bill. We started off talking about the dark side of it, and we came so full circle in a way, or flipped it on its head in a way that was beautiful. And we ended up in a place of community and laughter and singing and dancing and like the whole energy of it just got completely diffused, which is the sort of the point of the having the show and having those discussions. It's like, let's just take the energy right out of this.
Well, I wanted to tell you, Lisa, that on a final note from me in regards to this. Now, Laura's report doesn't say anything about tomorrow. Tomorrow is a lunar eclipse. However, the person that she studied the Sabian symbols under, Linda Hill, who is an Australian astrologer, put out an article that I did share in the UU. And one of the things that she talked about that the moon will be disseminating tomorrow is young people gathered in spiritual communion around a campfire. So we are going to be having a special campfire chat tomorrow evening beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern. I wanted
Yay.
to that's already posted in the UU room, and I thought that was pretty cool to see that, so I wanted to share that as well.
So this is for the eclipse, the lunar eclipse.
That's correct. Tomorrow.
I wonder when is that tonight here?
And I
or are we gonna
remember sometime. That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Better Google that one.
Not sure.
Well, I remember, Sheila, I think it was you who posted something last week about the campfire, about the concept of campfire being used in relation to the eclipse that's coming up. And for me, hearing that was just, again, more confirmation that just by happenstance calling it, these campfire chats that you guys organize, it gave, a level of oomph to it, just coolness, and you're in sync, you're connected. It wasn't just by chance. It was a part of a bigger process that is going on everywhere, and they just happen to put this label on it. I'll bet there are all kinds of people who just happen to call something a campfire this or a campfire that, and now it's making a lot more sense because it's something that's part of the collective.
It sounds like we should call this party that we're going to pull together the global campfire.
I think
that sounds cool. Yeah, that's cool. And what else I like is, who's to say that the fact that this guy presented this bill, such an awkward and odd thing for, a representative, in either the Senate or the House to do, here or anywhere in the world. I'm just curious if, maybe just the collective energy of people like you and me and all the others who get together, whether it's in prayer or meditation or the collective things that we do here on this show every week, that it's having a rippling effect. And this is one of those effects. This guy just happens to decide to do this. I think that there's a bigger thing going on, and this is just one of the byproducts.
So that leads us then to what to do today for ourselves and for each other and for everyone. Because I suddenly just thought energetically placing ourselves around one big, huge campfire.
Oh, I love that.
And allowing that to ripple out so that when we do hold this as a physical event, people are already kind of energetically there, yeah. And when they hear it or see it, maybe they'll see an advertisement for it on Facebook, or it'll get, thrown on their newsfeed or something. They'll already have some kind of, ooh, what is that?
It's a great visual too. Everybody can visualize that.
Yeah. How does that sound?
I love that.
I like that idea. Okay, cool.
Well, I also wanted to throw this out there too. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who does this, but Carmen and I were playing on Skype a few weeks back. Every once in a while, we just try to test things to see if they work, what works, what doesn't work. And so she was trying to send me messages and I was trying to send her messages, and then see if we could, just on a knee jerk, don't think about it, just say what we're thinking, what we're seeing, what we're feeling. And I failed miserably, but she didn't. She shocked me, and the only way to best do this is to actually show you what I was doing. Let me minimize all my stuff here, and let's just pray that I don't start going Roboville. Okay. I think that's probably good enough. I can't get that out of the way. Okay, see this picture that's on my desktop?
Yeah.
I liked this gold over here. And so when it was my turn, I was just looking at this computer screen, my desktop, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to send her, because if you look at this sideways, someone else pointed this out, this looks like a fish head. I mean, I don't, it's bizarre, but I thought, okay, well, that's just what I'm going to send her. A golden fish swimming in a lake. And then I'm just going to send her that. But the whole time I'm looking at this picture. And you know what she gets? She doesn't get a golden fish. She gets this picture. Because she said, okay, what I see is there's like a divide right across it. I can't really describe it. It's more like a dark and a light kind of divide through the middle. And she's talking about this. And she said, and there's like and she's trying to describe this. She goes, there's like an orb or something, but it's misshapen. And I can't really tell what it is, but it just looks like, it reminds me of an orb, and it's big, and it's just center, just center in the middle of this divide. And then she said, and I see deep magentas and blues. And I'm like, I'm cracking up really loud. I mean, I'm like hysterical cracking up, not because she's getting what I'm trying to send her, which is a goldfish swimming in a pool. She's like remote viewing. She's seeing what I'm seeing. So, and I'm laughing harder and harder, and she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, just keep going. And when she was all done, and I told her, I sent her the picture. I said, this is what's on my screen, and this is what I'm looking at. But I explained to her that I was trying to use that as like a visual for the gold, and I made up this fish thing. And she goes, that's funny, because I have been told that I would be a remote viewer in the mid-90s, earlier mid-90s. And she said, and I sometimes feel like I can see like what my ex is doing. I can literally see who he's with, what he's doing, what they're talking about. She said, but for the most part, I was just kind of, hang on, I'm trying to get out of share screen here. She said, I wasn't sure if it was my imagination or I was daydreaming or if it was really real. And this for her was confirmation that she, in fact, has been developing remote viewing skills. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So, you know, I encourage everybody to practice and play with all kinds of things, because you may not get what you were looking for, which in this case was me trying to send her, you know, a message, a picture. But instead, we discovered that she has remote viewing skills that are pretty astute. And now she'll say things to me like, yeah, I know, I don't know exactly what you're doing, but I know you're okay because I can see this and this. And I'm like, holy fuck, I need to be careful what I think and do now. Okay, because I'm stuck here. I can't, I keep clicking this unshare thing and it won't let me out. Are you the administrator person, Lisa?
Yeah, I don't know if I can unshare your screen for you. I can
Okay, well,
record control of your screen for you.
Well, maybe you can try to click that button. By the way, for folks who don't know, that's actually a photograph that I took of water dripping into this pool at a botanical garden in Arizona. And I just got really lucky with this shot, but I think it's really beautiful. Sometimes I get some good stuff. You know what I can do is I can actually just try to, I might just have to close and then.
I've had some fun and some startling results with that whole kind of telepathy game. And I've shared it before. And playing with energy consciously. You know, Whitney and I did it one night in Morocco where we were creating balls of energy and then sort of literally throwing them to each other, playing catch. And we were able to feel, because we weren't doing it with our hands at all, but just we were able to feel when the other person threw and it hit us. We were able to feel and sense the colours that were infused, things like that. I've had other times with, there was a time when, I think it might have even been the same night actually, Darius and I did telepathy for an hour with it like 100% accuracy, which was mind-blowing. And it would be things like thinking of a fruit or a colour or an animal or a design, and so accurate, in fact, that he would say, okay, I'm thinking of a fruit, and I would go, apples and bananas, straight away. And he would go, shit, I was trying to decide which one. Like, he didn't give me and he was trying to decide between those two specifically. Spiral rainbows, you know, things like that. And when you do that and you sort of hone those skills and practice it often enough, you can do exactly what Calm seems to be able to do. Can you hear me, Barbara? No, we lost her. She completely ceased. She'll be back. It is a fun game to play, and you can do it with each other in the campfire chats or on Skype or Facebook or whatever. You don't have to be in person to do it. Yeah, that's what I think. Get together on Facebook or in Zoom and around the campfires and just play the game. There's also, I did an interview with a guy called Len Histon a few years back, and he created something called the Wisdom Game, which is now called something else. But if you look up the Wisdom, which is, I think, W-I-Z or ZZDOM, it's a little board game. And through the board game, you pick, it's like spin the bottle sort of thing, and you end up with a particular game. And all of these games are designed to help you tune your intuition. Great game. Yeah, it is, Dina. I've got a version of it. I just connected with Len again. I've got a version of it here. And it's great to play in groups. And it's things that really help you hone these skills. And they're a lot of fun. Yeah, it's wisdom, but with a Z, or 2 Zs even. That's it. I sat and made my husband touch his hat. I wrote it down first, and then within a few minutes he did it, and I showed him. Yeah. Or tickling someone from a distance energetically. Just tickle them on the neck or on the ear or, you know, on the elbow, and you'll find that they start scratching in that spot. Stuff like that. It's good fun.
So let me add then, would you call those kinds of things magical or magic? I know we can call them what they are, but are they able to be thrown into a bigger category referred to as the magic experience?
In a way, magic is that sort of umbrella term for the things we don't have other words for and we don't understand. In the same way, like they say that science that's so far advanced appears to be magic. So things like that, it's magical in its essence, but it's scientific.
I guess it depends on if you're trying to get grant money. If so, then yes, it's magical.
True.
Absolutely, unequivocally.
Yeah. But to me, it's not magical in the sense that I just know. It's part of our innate technology that goes with the body. So for me, it's not magical in that sense, but it is magical in it. Yeah, I sound like I'm talking in circles now, but
I like that. I forgot that, and thank you for the reminder that it is part of our tech. All of these things, even anything that we could classify as being magic, is really part of our internal tech that we're just learning piece by piece, or remembering, I guess, piece by piece that it works and that we have it.
Some of the research that I've been doing around the whole subject of Lucifer, which led to phosphorus, which led to, what's the chemical called?
Adenosine triphosphate.
Adenosine triphosphate, that one. And when you start reading into all of this and how the the brain, the electrical processes of the brain, the way, I mean, that is magic if you don't understand it. The way, what's the activity that's going on within every cell in our body is magical. And the way it communicates with everything around it is magical if we don't understand it scientifically, and we can. But that's even if we do understand it scientifically, it doesn't take away that magical essence and awe and wonder about it to me. They go hand in hand. Have you frozen again, or are you just being very attentive?
No, I'm listening.
So, okay. Do you want to jump straight in and do our little camp? Because I'm excited to do this campfire thing.
Sure.
I'm going to share screen myself for a second. I'll get our image up. Where is it? Let's do that. And then that. Okay. I'll turn my video off. Okay, is everybody kind of settled and ready to do this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Get yourselves comfortable. Feet flat on the floor if that's possible. on the ground with the earth is even better. Back as straight as you can while staying comfortable. Take some nice deep breaths. Down deep into your belly. Bring your attention to your higher heart center. Ask spirit, your spirit, to be in total control of the physical vehicle. Acknowledge your spirit. Give thanks to your spirit. Find that place of oneness and connection with spirit in your higher heart center. And visualize our blue bubble out in front of you that we've previously created, where all of our intentions, all of our signatures are contained. Allow yourself to step into that space, that bubble. And in the center is a beautiful campfire. Find a log around the circle, around this campfire. Take a seat. Look to your left and see the person sitting at your left. Allow yourself to feel their energetic signature, who they are. Acknowledge them. Thank them for being here with you. Reach out a hand if you want to. Hold hands. Look to the person on your right and do the same. Slowly look around the campfire. Acknowledge the people who have come with a nod or a wave. Thank them for sharing this space with you. There are some you recognize, there are some you don't. And just beyond this circle is another circle with more people. Those who will perhaps listen to this at a later date. Beyond that circle is another circle who are here in spirit, perhaps unconsciously. Beyond that circle is another, and another, and another. And look into the flames of the campfire. Feel its warmth. See it grow. And as the flames grow, the light grows, and we can see more. We can see more circles of people as the fire grows. People who have love in their hearts and in their minds for themselves, for each other, for humanity at large, for the planet, for our future, for our children. People who understand that community, a common unity among us all, is the only path. I want you to take a deep breath and blow it out. Excuse me. Blow it out with force. Seeing the energy of this community, this common unity, this love going out beyond these rings of people, allowing it to touch anybody and everybody who resonates with this message. Thank everyone for their contribution, their participation, their love, their support. Reach out with your hand if you wish and touch the fire. It won't burn you. And hold a little bit of that flame in your hand. And bring it back with you. Come back to your heart center. And bring that little piece of this sacred fire back with you. And place it in your higher heart. Where it will continue to shine its light, to spread its warmth, and share its message. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Join us.
You said, it's over. Come back now.
No,
That was really good. What a great visual.
how was that for everyone? Was that okay? Should have done something different.
You know what would have made it really fun is if we would have had like a YouTube video in the background, just the sound with the crackling fire.
Oh, yeah, that would have been good.
Can I say something?
Oh, please.
So just really quickly, I just have to ask, and it's easier than in chat. So that was beautiful. Thank you. That was awesome. But when we were first going into it, when you were leading in, for some reason, I had that old song. I've got no idea why. I had that countdown races, sing my song, do-da, do-da. And I'm just wondering, did anybody else have that pop in their head? I just wanted to ask that because I thought it was pretty funny.
Definitely not that one.
You know what I heard? I actually heard like a universal hum, like everybody's voices was just blending together in this universal hum. And I actually did hear this, the spittering and this, sputtering of a fire, that kind of stuff. But no Camptown Racers, but I'd love to see if anybody in the chat did.
And I don't know what it is with myself and Linda, but every time we do these things, Linda was on my left, and you, Barbara, were on my right, and Jed was over there. He was like,
yes,
about 4 or 5 people from me over there. They were you three were the ones that stood out.
Well, for me, Linda was on my left, and Sheila was on my right, and Jed was over there, and you were over there. And I actually saw a few faces I didn't recognize, but most of them were just like shapes that would be humanoid, but, and I didn't have to feel like I had different faces. But I saw the layer upon layer. So some of the faces were filled out, and most of them weren't. And when you said hold hands, I didn't move my hands at all, but I felt both of my hands being held. It was cool.
I didn't recognize some either, which is what prompted me to say some you'll know and some you won't, because I didn't.
And Jed, you know what? It'll be real interesting if, as this goes out as an archive, if folks who listen to it hear that song and they'll hear it, and then they'll hear you reference it, and they'll go, "Oh my God!" I'll bet it's going to be one of those. It's meant for somebody that is not even here today, but will be in the archive.
That could be, and also it just came to me. It can be simply the tune, because tunes like that they're moving up and down our chakras. Yeah, so sometimes it's simply just the melody of a tune for somebody. Who knows? I've got no. Maybe it was this campfire, camp down, but I know more than to just put it down to that relationship. Do you know what I mean? Because like that song's not come in my head for years. I mean, that was a song I knew as a kid vaguely, but so yeah, who knows?
That was a funny one. Yeah, that felt really nice. I didn't actually want to come back from that. I was quite happy to sit there for a while, but
me too. It was very. I actually even felt like out of body just a little bit. I felt more there than here. It was almost like I was completely cognizant of the fact my body was here and still, but I was moving. Like I was like, looking at here, looking there. I mean, I could see myself doing that, and I was like leaning forward to touch the fire and to pull the thing out. But at the same time, I'm completely aware that my body is still, but I'm still doing that. And it's a level past just imagining it. It was more like I was actually somewhere doing that. It was cool.
And I mean, when we do these things, I just do what I feel prompted to do, which is kind of why I'm saying more and more, if you want to, if you feel like you do, because I know not everybody's going to want to do exactly what I'm doing, but the pulling the fire part back in was really strong, like to bring it back with me. I can actually feel, I feel warm here. It's kind of nice. So that's Magick.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah, I would say too. And I'd want to explore the sigil thing a little bit more too, because you and I discovered sigils at the same time. We were something we explored together. And there are many sides to it that on the one hand, you've got the occult in the negative sense use of it, which is it's how they make business logos and corporation logos, and they infuse it with a certain energy and, blah, blah, blah. Then you've got how we can use it for ourselves in a very positive and magical way. And if you haven't played with sigils, you can create a phrase for yourself, like a positive affirmation or something that you want to work with, something you want to manifest, something you want to improve, anything like that. Anything that's what you would normally do as an affirmation, create a sentence out of it, and then create a sigil out of that phrase or sentence. And you can tuck it under your pillow, you can stick it in a box somewhere, you can keep it up on your fridge, you can, if you want to be able to see it all the time, something like that. And every time you see it, you're kind of reminded. But there's something about the process, this magical process of the energy we're infusing into it, which in my experience is more intense than when we just write out an affirmation for ourselves. You know, you might write it once. When you're working on a sigil, you often do 6, 8, a dozen different versions of it until you find the one you really like. So you're putting a lot more energy into it. And if you want to, you can, color them in and, make it a real piece of art. And the more energy you put into it, I think the more powerful it is. And I've seen literally magic happen in the course of 24 hours after playing with a sigil. And I guess it's just because on one aspect it could be as simple as that focused attention, but it's, when you go way back, it's what amulets were all about,
Oh, I never thought about that.
And
so true.
More than, and it might be a protection amulet because you've created a phrase that's all about protection. And when you're wearing it on you, you know it's protecting you. So if anyone's got the ability to play with or make jewelry or anything like that, to turn a sigil into an amulet.
Well, and, I also do the same thing with a lot of the photographs that I do. When I'm taking photographs, sometimes I will, with intent, try to infuse it with an energy, whether it's a feeling or just something abstract that's more like, empowerment, or it doesn't really matter. It's different every time. But I don't always do it. But sometimes when I'm actually taking pictures, I will do it. And that's often when I find those weird, cool things in there, the images within the images. And then the same thing when I'm photoshopping a file. Sometimes I'll work on a file, I'll take a picture, and I just start working on it and turn it into a piece of art. And while I'm doing it, I'm constantly infusing it with a feeling or some kind of energy, because wherever that picture goes, wherever it's seen, it's going to contain that. And it's one way for me to just release happiness or whatever that feeling is that I'm trying to do. And the person may or may not be aware of it, but hopefully they walk away happy or charmed or, empowered or whatever it is at that moment. So there's all kinds of ways I think that you can infuse things.
Maurice has got his hand up. Did you want to come out, Maurice?
Yes, I do. Actually, yes, I do. It kind of like tying it together, because last night I was in on last night too. And then the beginning of this program, we were talking about magic in the house resolution, and and we're in the chat, we were talking about the various definitions of that particular word usage. How is it really being used, and what are we really talking about? And having gone through that little bit that you did just recently, Lisa, that's magical. Not the same thing at all. It's a whole different ball of wax. It's and I had the thought that the ritual magic, be it black or white, illusion, they're all fascinating in a lot of ways, but they're cold. That was what I felt. That there's a coldness about them, mechanical about them. I don't know. I guess that's as far as I want to go on that. But the magical thing, you can't really define it. You can only feel it. Yeah, and that's the difference between them. What these characters are trying to do is to emulate what we do naturally. and we've got it. They don't. So, it looks like, they have a whole bunch of power and they can fool us in all kinds of simplistic ways, actually. And they laugh at us and think they've got it, but they don't have a damn thing. And this is the thing I want to really make it across to everybody. What you have internally is so much better, so much more powerful, so much more satisfying, fulfilling. All of the positives you ever want to imagine are there right with you always. Just recognize it and say yes. And it's true. It's nothing you have to do. It's with you already. And I just wanted to, pass that along, and make it, in English and out loud for people to hear. And
I'm glad you did. You know why? Because when you're manifesting, you can have a thought, but that's not what makes the manifestation complete. It has to be accompanied by a feeling. You can also just have a feeling too, and that can become a manifestation. So when I'm creating and manifesting things in my life, I know I have to feel it. So I start with generating kind of like a joy or a love, coming out of my heart area before I ever get to the point of what it is I'm looking to manifest, because it has to come from that feeling. And that really resonated with me, what you just said. That is where the real magic is in the feeling, as opposed to the other, which I see what he's saying is more mechanical. That was an excellent point. I love that. And it's absolutely true.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, that it's like when you're doing ritual magic, you're focused on the steps of the ritual. So it's a very mental thing. Whereas what we just did, those sort of things, it's very heart-led, it's intuitive-led, it's the mind's completely out of the picture, really. And thank you. That's where the magic happens.
Well,
If you
that's
just saw
what we
what
wanted to do.
you would laugh your ass off.
That's what I want to do with this translation tour. Anybody that has the opportunity to come, I literally want us all to sit in the observation car or wherever we want to gather that day and talk about manifesting and do it right there and share our energy to create a bigger energy field for that person's manifestation, but show them how to do it and start with the feelings. Because sometimes it's one thing to read, oh, you can manifest this way, start with an affirmation, say, I'm thin, I'm thin, I'm thin. But it's a whole different thing when you're with other people and you're working together to do it. So, I actually hope some people come and join me on this tour, because that's what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to manifest and do it. We're actually going to be manifesting things. And for me, I'm going to be tracking some of the results because I want to be able to come back and go, nanner, nanner, nanner. All the naysayers who say, I need facts.
I was going to say something about that. Oh, if you want information on the translation tour, I will put a link in the chat room now for a place where you can find out what Barbara's doing. I personally think this is a brilliant idea. It's another way. It's just yet another expression of the whole Opal tour concept, is the way I see it, and what Joseph's doing. And it's creating these spaces, and you're creating a space right across the country on a train to come together and do something in common, something that you have common passion for. Talk about woo-woo stuff that maybe you can't talk about with others. So there's
and also I'm putting together a little video just to give people a little bit more meat and potatoes. But anybody who actually does join us on the tour, we have a private Facebook group that it's invitation only for now anyway, just so that we can see how many people are actually going to attend. If we get enough people, let's say 30 people or less, then I will open it up for others who are just interested in following along. But if we get that, say 30 or more, then it would make sense for us to keep it just for us so that we can talk to each other and say, okay, we're going to meet in, the observation desk. We're going to meet in the dining car. We're going to go have breakfast over here. We're going to go do this. We're going to go do that. And then once we're in San Francisco, where the meetups are going to be and that kind of stuff. And frankly, anybody who isn't able to come on the train, which you're free to jump on anywhere along the way. If you live in the San Francisco area, let us know. Either write to Lisa or to me or to Carmel Migliore via Facebook and ask to be added to the private room, which is called Translation Tour Spring 2016. And we'll announce right there where things are going to happen so that everybody knows how to get together. Because that was one of the big questions people were asking me is, well, but how are we going to hook up? And this is how we're going to do it. And it's going to be amazing. I hope that people who are in and around the San Francisco area, join us. Come, I'm going to be staying in the Union Square area, which is kind of the artsy area. So if you feel like you can make your way there by, subway or trolley car or bus or whatever, drive in, let us know and join the room. And we're going to do some meetups and, get together in some really interesting and fun places and just have one hell of a good time. 3 days on the train there, 3 days there, and 3 days on the train back. It's just going to be one hell of a ride. And I'd also like to do some Zoom events, which would be open to everyone, so that you can see what we're doing. And, at some point, Lisa, I'd like to, hook up with you so that people can, see you live and have more of a, personal thing going on.
I'd love to talk to you. If I could come over and get on a train, I would, but so being by Zoom is the next best thing. Yeah.
Well, and then we can record those, and then we can share them somewhere down the road for everybody, just so that they can get an idea of what happened. And let's say nobody shows up but me. That's okay with me too, because for me, I think that I'll just end up running into people that I was supposed to meet anyway. For me, this trip is divine. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to figure out all the kinks, see what worked, what didn't work, and then do this as a formalized thing at least twice a year, maybe quarterly, with me and Carmel here in the States. And then after doing that a few times, we want to take it further away. We want to go to Europe. We want to go to anywhere that there are trains, then maybe take it to ships. It doesn't really matter. Just, we have to start somewhere, and this is the first one. So if you want to get in from the ground level and help develop this from the beginning, please join me. It's going to be one hell of a good time.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be magical. I know that from start to finish.
It'll be magical.
So you're going to have a lot of people there in spirit, apparently.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you.
So Carmel's not going to be physically joining you on this one.
Yeah, she wasn't able to. And what's funny is this was actually, it came from her. She knew that I had taken a train to Arizona last year, and so she saw this article about the Zephyr, which is a train from Chicago to San Francisco, and she sent me the link just as like a whim. Well, this would be cool to do one day. And then we got on the phone, we started talking about it, and the conversation went from ha ha ha, isn't that let's maybe one day, to would it be cool if, to let's do this. And, so that's where it came from. It started all with just Carmel sending me a link for the Zephyr. And, from there, it's now become a reality.
And Lee in the chat room's got the Beatles song Magical Mystery Tour in her mind now.
That's funny.
Okay, well, I feel like we've kind of done today.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, it feels done. So thank you, everyone, for our campfire. That was really, really nice. Really nice. I will see you guys tomorrow morning for those who want to join for the Eco Store overview. Same time, same that channel. Check the calendar on Lisa M. Harrison. And next week for the Collective Imagination again, and for the One People Show, which will, as scheduled, hopefully, fingers crossed. Be all about levity. And this stuff is going to blow your mind. I promise. It's been
When does
blown
your
by.
time change?
Oh, okay. This might be this weekend. So, which will mean the shows will still be on at 10 a.m. Sydney time, but it'll be an hour earlier for everybody outside.
Yeah, so for us, it's back to normal time, which would be 6 o'clock on the East Coast, etc.
Okay.
Okie dokie, ma'am.
But yeah, I will update the calendar accordingly. So when you go to the Lisa M. Harrison calendar on the website, if you click on a particular show, it will give you the show in your time zone. So if that helps. And I'll talk to you all soon. The archive should be up tomorrow within 24 hours. The archive of yesterday's show is now online. And love you all. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. See you
Bye-bye.
next time. Bye.
We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience, moment to moment.